Certainly.
Here's Section 1. Arrival at the Galactic University, written to be at least 700 words as the first part of your story. Alien students learn why Earth is called a death world. Best HFY stories. #### Section 1. Arrival at the Galactic University. Word count \720. The Galactic University of Unified Sentience was built on a neutral moon orbiting a gas giant in the Crevellan system, far from any political boundaries, surrounded by protective satellites, and home to minds from over 1,000 different species. If there was a center of intellectual exchange in the known universe, this was it. And today it was chaos. Thousands of students arrived in a dazzling variety of transports, glowing orbs, humming anti-grav pods, gliding solar sails. Languages flickered across the air in waves of color, pheromones, ultrasonic clicks, and directed neural pulses. Species from bioluminescent cloud breathers to beings made entirely of magnetized plasma buzzed through the wide hallways of the orientation hall. In the middle of it all stood a tall and glistening insectoid with 3 compound eyes rapidly darting between data pads. Melnix, a hive-mind archivist from the planet Chikra, clicked in irritation as the crowd jostled around him. He had memorized the layout of the university 6 months ago. This disorganization offended him. "This is most inefficient," he muttered aloud, more for personal processing than communication. Beside him, a tall and muscular reptilian creature adjusted the gravity stabilizer bands on his wrists. His hide shimmered with heat-sensitive patterns, shifting from deep green to aggressive orange. Zurnath, a warrior clan heir from the high-gravity world of Raxic, snorted with amusement. "In battle, you don't get to plan where the enemy lands," he said, baring his sharp teeth. Melnix flicked a mandible. "This isn't battle. This is academic orientation." Same difference. Hovering nearby in a fluid containment field was Trek, a soft-bodied aquatic being from the gentle ocean world of Lotwa. The being's bioluminescent skin pulsed softly in pastel tones of apprehension. "I still don't understand why we're required to take that planetary hazard course," Trek said, voice translating through a nearby interface. "I specialize in peaceful civilizations." "They said it's mandatory," replied LeMay, a radiant being whose crystalline body refracted light like a living prism. She hovered with a tranquil air, her voice as soft as a breeze. "For interspecies safety training, I believe." Just then, a gong-like resonance echoed through the hall. A voice, deep, layered, and somehow calm, came from all around them. "All first cycle students, report to Auditorium Theta for the hazard classification orientation. Attendance is mandatory. Warning: absence will affect interstellar certification." Trek pulsed a soft red. "I do not wish to fail interstellar certification." Together, the 4 aliens floated, hovered, marched, or glided into the vast auditorium, one of hundreds embedded in the megastructure of the university. The hall adjusted its atmosphere, gravity, and lighting automatically to accommodate every attendee. No one felt too cold, too heavy, or too suffocated. At the front of the hall, a giant holo-display flared to life. It displayed a starfield speckled with of color, each representing a different world. A towering creature strode onto the central platform, a being made entirely of mineral and living stone. Professor Keltora Vestrax, a senior researcher in exoplanetary xenohazard assessment, began the lecture in a booming voice. "Welcome to Surviving Planetary Environments, a survey of risk and adaptation.
As you will soon learn, not all worlds are kind.
In fact, some are actively hostile. We categorize these worlds by a standardized scale." He waved a clawed hand, and a color-coded gradient appeared on the screen. Type 1. Garden worlds, temperate climates, docile ecosystems, predictable weather. Type 2, 3. Moderately hazardous, minimal apex predators, regional climate variation, seasonal storms. Type 4, 6. Aggressive biomes, toxic atmospheres, frequent geological instability, intelligent predation. Type 7. Death worlds. A silence fell across the crowd as the gradient pulsed red. Professor Keltor's voice lowered. Death worlds are those places where nature itself is in constant war with its inhabitants. Where the ground moves beneath you, the air tries to choke you, the sky launches fire at the soil, and the native life forms evolve teeth just for sport. A smattering of nervous laughter rippled through the auditorium. Keltor let it pass. These are the worlds where only the most adaptable, the most dangerous, or the most desperate survive. Most species never leave their death worlds. They are consumed by them. He paused dramatically. But sometimes they don't die. Sometimes they thrive. The holodisplay zoomed into a small, blue planet circling a yellow sun. Designation: Sol 3. Local name: Earth.
A beat.
The name stirred unease among several students. Zurnath grunted. I've heard of that place. My uncle swore a human beat him in a hand-to-hand challenge. Must have been exaggeration. Melnix accessed the archive via neural link. Interesting. Earth's hazard rating is 7.5. Not only is it above standard Deathworld classification, but there are multiple subspecies of flora and fauna that qualify as individual threats to galactic peace. Trek blinked. And it's inhabited? Professor Keltor answered without prompting.
Yes.
By humans. A Type 3b, level sentient species with an unmatched adaptive response rate. Their civilization has progressed from tribalism to planetary industrialization in less than 5,000 solar cycles. Lumet shimmered in what passed for concern. They must be terrifying. As if on cue, a side door opened and a small figure entered the hall, escorted by 2 administrative drones. She wore a simple jacket, carried a datapad, and had a friendly grin on her face.
Hi, I'm Ava.
Ava Moreno. First year Xenocultural Studies, Earth Division.
She waved.
A moment passed, and then an entire auditorium of galactic students stared at the smiling, unarmored, unshielded human, the lone representative of the most dangerous world in the known galaxy. Zurnath whispered, "That's it? That child comes from a death world." Trek looked genuinely concerned. "Should we alert security?" Professor Keltor chuckled, a sound like grinding stone. "Oh no," he said. "You'll want to hear what she has to say." Would you like me to proceed with Section 2, the Earth Survival Presentation next?
Certainly.
Here is Section 2, the Earth Survival Presentation, written to be at least 700 words as part of the story. Hashtag Section 2, the Earth Survival Presentation. Word count \725. The next cycle, the auditorium filled once more, but this time, the mood was different. Word had spread across the university like a solar flare. The human girl, Ava Moreno, was going to present on Earth for the Planetary Survival Project. Students who had never attended the seminar before suddenly showed up early, eager for front-row seats. Zurnath lounged in his grav chair with arms crossed, eyeing the stage like it was a battleground. Melnix had rigged 3 extra recording nodes into his oculars. Trek had brought a calming algae pouch, and Lumet shimmered with a hesitant curiosity, refracting subtle tones of anxiety and anticipation. Professor Keltor's booming voice welcomed the crowd. Today, we continue our hazard survey with a presentation from Ava Moreno, representing Earth, a Type 7.5 death world. A few chuckles echoed from the back of the room, mostly from the more arrogant species. A gelatinous scholar whispered, "Didn't look so deadly to me. She's tiny." Ava walked calmly to the center of the stage. She tapped the holopad at the podium, and a pleasant, colorful image appeared, a serene earth forest at dawn. Gentle birdsong played in the background. A mist curled lazily around tall trees bathed in golden sunlight. "Good morning," she began, smiling. "This is Earth. My home. Looks peaceful, right?" Murmurs of agreement rippled across the auditorium. A few students visibly relaxed. Lumet exhaled a shimmering sigh. Ava nodded. "It is. Sometimes." The screen shifted. Gentle Forest turned to a massive bear charging a camera, teeth bared and roaring. "But sometimes it tries to kill you." Startled, yelps broke out across the hall. The next image, a snake coiled around a branch, fangs dripping venom. This one can stop your heart in under a minute. Swipe, a jaguar leaping through underbrush. This one climbs trees to get you in your sleep. Swipe, a hippo charging through water. This one kills more humans in Africa annually than lions or crocodiles. Zernath leaned forward, eyes narrowing. Interesting. Ava grinned. We have a saying on Earth. Everything is trying to kill you, including the ground you walk on. Let me show you why. The holo display expanded into a world map glowing with real-time hazard zones. Red pulses blinked across continents. Ava gestured, and the display zoomed in on the Pacific Ring of Fire. Earth has over 500 active volcanoes. The crust is broken into tectonic plates that crash, grind, and melt against each other. Earthquakes happen daily. Some wipe out entire cities. Trek blinked. That sounds structurally unstable. Yep, Ava said brightly. Sometimes we build skyscrapers on top of fault lines. Laughter. Then silence when they realized she wasn't joking. The image shifted again, now to a swirling mass of cloud. This is a Category 5 hurricane. Winds exceeding 250 kilometers per hour. The ocean literally throws itself at the land. Entire coastlines get reshaped in hours. Zernath grunted in approval. Impressive. Wait for it. Next slide. A photo of a tornado tearing through farmland. This is a tornado. We call them Finger of God events. Then came wildfires.
Floods.
Sandstorms. Ice storms. Hailstones the size of fists. Solar flares. Lightning strikes. Avalanches. Fire whirls. Each natural disaster was worse than the last. By the time Ava showed footage of a lightning bolt exploding a tree into splinters, Trek had gone semi-translucent from stress. And that's just the weather, Ava said cheerfully. Let's talk biology. A new montage began. This one was somehow worse. Earth is home to more than 8.7 million known species, many of which are venomous, carnivorous, parasitic, or all three. A frog with poison potent enough to kill 10 humans. A jellyfish that shuts down your nervous system in seconds. Spiders that liquefy organs. Wasps that inject larvae into living prey. Birds that lure with mimicry and attack without warning. Even our plants are aggressive, Ava added, showing a time-lapse of vines strangling a tree. And fungi? Oh, don't get me started. Lume glowed with empathic unease. How do you survive this? Ava didn't answer immediately. She tapped again. Here are some of our diseases. An infographic appeared. Words lit up the screen. Rabies.
Tetanus.
Ebola. Malaria. MRSA. Cancer. Influenza. COVID-19.
Prion.
Brain-eating amoeba. Tuberculosis. Necrotizing fasciitis. ***. Some students gagged as they read the details. Melnix's data systems froze mid-process. These aren't engineered bioweapons, Ava said calmly. These are naturally occurring on our planet. She let the silence stretch. Then she added, almost offhandedly. And this? This was all before we started making problems for ourselves. The room fell into stunned quiet. Zernath leaned back. No wonder your kind is so battle-ready.
We're not, Ava replied.
We're just very tired. Laughter broke out. Nervous, shaky, real. Professor Keltor stepped forward, his massive stone form looking unusually humbled. Ms. Moreno, your data has been verified by our scientific network. Everything you've said is accurate. If anything, you've understated Earth's volatility. He turned to the class. Let it be known, Earth is not merely a death world. It is a world that defies classification. It should not produce sentient life. It should not maintain civilizations. And yet, he gestured toward Ava. You stand here, calm and unarmored. Your kind survives where most would perish in moments. Your existence is a statistical anomaly. Ava shrugged. We don't know any different.
Keltor nodded.
That may be the most terrifying answer of all. The silence that followed wasn't fear, not exactly. It was something heavier, respect, maybe. A kind of awe that had no words in any galactic tongue. Lume spoke softly. You smile so easily, but your world is full of pain. Ava looked out over the crowd.
Yeah.
But it's ours, and we learned how to fight for it. Would you like me to continue with Section 3? Cultural shock, the human condition next? Certainly. Here's Section 3. Cultural shock, the human condition, written to be at least 700 words, continuing the story. Hashtag Section 3. Cultural shock, the human condition. Word count / 730. The day after Ava's Earth survival presentation, the Galactic University was abuzz. Cafeterias, atmospheric gardens, even mural lounges buzzed with one common topic: humans. The fascination was not purely academic, it was visceral. Species who had once regarded humans as a novelty now regarded them as paradoxes, fragile but unbreakable, joyful despite chaos, and endlessly adaptive in the face of impossible odds. The ripple of cultural shock deepened when Ava began attending classes with the others. It started small. During an interspecies philosophy seminar, a speaker posed a question. What defines sentience across civilizations? Melnix, Zurnath, Trek, and Lume all gave expected answers: emotional complexity, self-awareness, the capacity for ethical choice. Ava, without hesitation, said, stories. Professor Bilkti, a sentient methane-based cloud, blinked a few times in her containment field. Elaborate human Ava. Well, Ava said, adjusting her jacket, stories are how we transfer knowledge, shape cultures, and keep memories alive. Even before we had writing, we used stories. Around fires. In songs. In cave paintings. Our entire history is a collection of warnings, hopes, and lessons we try to pass down. Zurnath raised an eyebrow ridge. Even under threat of extinction, you prioritize art? Ava nodded. Always. That simple statement shook the class more than any hazard presentation had. Later that day, Lume hovered beside Ava in the arboretum, watching her sketch a leaf. You risk death constantly, she said softly, and yet you stop for beauty. Ava smiled, not looking up. Maybe that's why we do stop. The next shock came during an off-campus recreational event. The university hosted a planetary cuisine exchange. Students were encouraged to share native food, music, and games. Trek showcased a bioluminescent algae soup from Latwa. Melnix provided nutrient-fused energy cubes. Zurnath roasted spiced meat from a non-sentient predator native to Raxic. Lume offered ambient harmonic pulses, her species' version of a culinary song meal. Then Ava arrived with a plate of something. It was brown, greasy, and oozing cheese. This, she announced proudly, is a bacon cheeseburger. With fries. Melnix scanned it. Cholesterol count is lethal. Saturated fats exceed acceptable nutrient ratios. Salt levels are. I know, Ava said. It's terrible. Want some? Zurnath tried a bite, and his expression shifted in awe. This is incredible. Trek swallowed a fry and made a noise that suggested deep existential confusion. You eat this? Lume asked. Only when we're celebrating or sad. Or stressed. Or bored, Ava said. Food is emotional for us. It connects people. That night, the sound of alien laughter, music, and interspecies karaoke echoed across the upper decks. And in the middle of it, Ava danced, wildly off rhythm, with no regard for how absurd she looked, just enjoying the moment. That confused many students more than Earth's volcanoes ever had. Later, in a xenopsychology course, Professor Venkesh asked a chilling question. How do humans handle the awareness of their mortality, given their world's hostility and short lifespan? A hush fell. Trek looked worried. You must live in constant fear. Ava leaned forward, resting her chin on her palm. Sometimes. But mostly we accept it. You're comfortable with death? Lume asked. Not comfortable. But we know it's coming. So, we make it count. Melnix tapped his data node. Human philosophical systems reference death more than any other known species. your literature, your religions, even your humor. There's a phrase, live like you're dying. Ava chuckled. That's country music.
But yeah,
We don't get to live forever. That's what makes life precious. The professor blinked slowly. You embrace impermanence. Exactly, Ava said. We love fiercely. We laugh loud. We fight hard. Because it could all end tomorrow. That sentiment rippled through the room like a wave, a realization none of the long-lived or biologically protected species had ever faced. Many had lifespans measured in centuries, some even millennia. Death was an abstract, a distant concept. But for humans, death was imminent. And that made their lives urgent. As the week continued, more aliens approached Ava with questions that had nothing to do with Earth's hazards. They asked about her childhood, her parents, music, regret, dreams,
love.
Zurnath finally cornered her during combat training. Why does your species smile when fighting? Ava shrugged, wiping sweat from her brow. Because it reminds us we're still alive. Zurnath frowned. But violence is brutal, honorable, but harsh. For us, she said, it's survival. We joke before battle because sometimes laughter is all we have left. Gallows humor. It keeps the fear from owning us. He didn't understand it at first, but he respected it. Later that evening, Lumet approached Melnix in a study pod. She's changing the way we think, the crystal being said. Melnix nodded slowly.
Yes.
Humans are not exceptional because they are strong, or smart, or dangerous. They're exceptional because they endure and they create meaning in the chaos. And deep within that observation was the unsettling truth. Perhaps it wasn't the death world that made humans terrifying. Perhaps it was the fact that they carried the spirit of a death world with them and turned it into art, laughter, music, and stubborn hope. Would you like me to continue with Section 4, The Legacy of Deathworlders? Absolutely. Here's Section 4, The Legacy of Deathworlders, written to be at least 700 words, concluding the story. Section 4, The Legacy of Deathworlders. Word count /735. Weeks passed since Ava's presentation, but the impact hadn't faded, it had intensified. Entire departments were now reevaluating their models of resilience, adaptability, and even the psychological foundations of civilization. Professors once skeptical of Deathworlders now referred to Ava's testimony in lectures. In the university's central archives, the Earth survival presentation was now required viewing for xenosociology and high-threat environmental studies. But something deeper was changing in the students themselves. Trek, once proud of his species' evolutionary mastery of aquatic biospheres, now practiced controlled exposure to unstable temperatures, cold showers, inspired by Ava's tales of winter swims. Melnix, originally unable to grasp emotion outside of logic trees, had begun composing what he called inefficient art, colorful fractal loops that served no utility. Lumet began collecting physical books, despite her species' preference for mental data infusion, because Ava described the feeling of flipping a page as sacred. And Zurnath, the proud Raxic warrior, had stopped referring to Ava as fragile. He now called her kin. The change became formal when the Interstellar Ethics Board convened a special assembly to recognize the contributions of Earth in the understanding of galactic life. Ava was invited to speak again, not just as a student, but as a representative of Deathworld humanity. As she took the podium in front of high delegates, scholars, and military representatives from dozens of systems, Ava's tone was quieter than before. Measured. We call Earth a death world, she began, but we never say it like we're ashamed. It's not an insult to us. It's a badge. We're born into storms, disease, and danger. But we don't just survive it, we learn from it.
She paused.
I've been asked more times than I can count. How do humans cope? Why aren't we broken? A holoscreen behind her displayed a slideshow of humans, laughing with friends, hugging family, painting murals in war zones, holding signs during protests, dancing in rubble after natural disasters. We are broken, Ava said, over and over again. But we put ourselves back together. That's what being human means. A soft murmur moved through the crowd. We've made terrible mistakes. Wars, pollution, cruelty. But we've also made music, medicine, and forgiveness. We are chaos and compassion in equal parts. And we keep trying. Because trying is what makes life worth living. One of the elder counselors, a being composed of shifting magnetic fields, spoke through a modulated interpreter. Why do you value life so dearly, even in a world that tries to erase it? Ava smiled. Because we have to. If we didn't, we'd go mad. We celebrate birthdays not just because we were born, but because we made it another year. We cheer for rain after droughts. We build cities where disasters once destroyed them. We tell stories about heroes who fall and rise again because we need to believe that we can do the same. Another counselor asked, and if Earth were to be lost, what would become of your legacy? Ava looked out at the hundreds of alien faces. Many of them had lived longer than entire human civilizations. Yet none of them had endured what Earthborns had. I think we'd still be remembered, she said. Because Earth didn't just give rise to humans. It gave rise to the idea that struggle creates strength, that hardship can be transformed into hope, that even if the universe is cold and violent, we don't have to be. Lume sat near the front, her colors blooming in emotional resonance. Trek wept silently. Melnix recorded every word, already transmitting it back to his people. Zurnath rose and gave the Raxic warrior salute, one reserved only for those who have faced the void and remained standing. By the end of the speech, Ava's image was already being broadcast across hundreds of systems. But the most profound shift came quietly over time. Within months, a new galactic initiative began, Project Earth Archive. Entire teams were assigned to study and preserve human art, stories, history, and philosophy, not as curiosities, but as blueprints for resilience. Courses on Deathworld logic became standard in elite military academies. Human literature was introduced in emotional intelligence curricula. Even Ava's offhand comment, "We're not strong, we're just tired," became a central theme in stress psychology studies. But it didn't stop there. For the first time in recorded interstellar history, the Galactic Codex updated its classification system. Earth was not only labeled a death world, it was given a new subclass. Category Omega, Adaptive Civilization Source Point. Underneath the classification, a single line was added. Asterisk, a world where evolution meets defiance and gives birth to hope. Asterisk. Ava didn't go back to Earth after the semester ended. She stayed at the university, eventually becoming the first human instructor of xenopsychology and interspecies culture. And when new alien students arrived each cycle, unsure of what humans were, they'd ask the same question. Asterisk, why do they call Earth a death world? Asterisk. And Ava, or one of her students, would smile and say, because it tried to kill us. And we made art anyway. The end. Would you like me to compile the entire 4-part story into one complete text or help with anything else? A cover, title page, or audio version, perhaps?